Hi, everyone. This is Michelle Gramolia. I am the president and CEO here at Woodland Pond at New Paltz, and today is Tuesday, October 5th, 2021, and this is my weekly update at noontime on a Tuesday. I think that you all know this, but these re-air on our YouTube channel continuously. I will send the link out in our listserv announcement on email, and I believe that they still re-air on channel 1340 in the evening on the Tuesdays. So you can always catch this another time if you miss anything. So I have a number of things that I'd like to cover today that are kind of across a variety of topics. But I think first we'll talk about COVID on campus, or lack of COVID on campus, to say it in a better way. So we currently have no known or suspected cases of COVID on campus at this time. That is in both staff and residents. We did have over the weekend a situation where a number of independent living residents were present at a church service where a traveling clergy member subsequently tested positive. This was a vaccinated person that did develop symptoms. We have provided those independent living residents their instructions on what they need to do in terms of monitoring, staying out of public areas if they've had certain levels of exposure and so forth. But I think more than anything, this is just another reminder that, if we are exposed to someone that is test positive for COVID, there are still those events that are going to happen, or activities that are going to happen after the fact that look a lot like what last year did. So there's going to be, depending on if you've had the exposure indoors or outdoors, if the exposure has been masked or unmasked, if the exposure has been including physical contact or within 3 feet or in excess of 6 feet, all of those things are going to determine the instructions that we give to you. And depending on how close or intimate and unmasked or unprotected the exposure is, even if you're vaccinated, we are still going to be asking you to stay in, avoid congregate settings. So that's not a blanket statement, and every circumstance will be different, but we absolutely will be asking those that are exposed to take safety precautions, because we don't want to take the risks of spreading COVID within the campus should we have a case. I think the key to that the comment that I made is that this individual was vaccinated. So, we do know that vaccinated folks can still get COVID and can be symptomatic, not nearly as much as unvaccinated people. Unfortunately, just about all of our people at this point are vaccinated. We just have a couple of residents that are not, that either can't or, have not opted to at this point, although we're hoping that everybody does. The mandates that exist right now exist for staff, not residents. But we are strongly encouraging, of course, anybody that remains unvaccinated to become so. And it is because we're in a high-risk setting. It's as simple as that. We're in a high-risk setting, and everyone here should be vaccinated. That's the science behind it. So in terms of the vaccination status here on campus, we are in a holding pattern to where we were last week. We have not lost any additional staff members. We have implemented a policy that is already in effect, that all newly hired staff here at the community must be vaccinated to be on campus. We are asking the same thing of all paid private duty companions. We want them all to be vaccinated. And the effective date for home health aid vaccination across the state is actually the 7th of October. So we will be putting signage up for all of our paid caregivers that's our expectation, even in independent living. So we do want everyone here on campus that's providing direct care, which is typically hands-on, close space type work, to be vaccinated. We do still have 8 staff members on a leave of absence status as they await some further direction on the outcomes of a federal injunction, temporary restraining order against our ability to assess religious exemption requests for the vaccine mandate. So all of those folks do remain in our employment. They're able to use accrued benefit time to continue to collect a paycheck. And as soon as we have some resolution in the courts about religious exemption requests, we will adjudicate their requests as long as that's permitted under the revised state mandate if it is revised. I think that's good on COVID. Just boosters. A lot of you have asked me about what I know about boosters. Is the Family Health Institute going to be doing boosters for the independent living staff? Is the pharmacy going to be providing boosters for the health center residents and staff? At this point, I don't have an answer to that question. If you are very anxious about getting a booster, you certainly can talk with your primary care physician. My understanding is there are a number of walk-in locations for boosters at this point, I believe for both Pfizer and Moderna. I will actually have more information on this all this afternoon. I'm meeting from the folks at the Institute for Family Health. They're coming over here at 2 p.m. to talk about a couple of opportunities with me, and we will be talking about boosters, at least for the independent living population. And I'll get some additional information from the health center about boosters for staff. At this point, boosters are optional. They are recommended in certain circumstances. They're not universally recommended at this point in time. So when you look at the recommendations, depending on your age group, your existing health condition, would determine whether or not the booster is recommended for you. So it's a little bit different in all cases. And it's also different depending on whether or not you had the Pfizer vaccine or the Moderna vaccine. And then we do have a small number that did have Johnson & Johnson. So the booster is still kind of a little bit up in the air. So if you're very anxious about it, I would recommend, again, speaking to your primary care physician. They can give you the best available information for your situation. Let's see. The next thing I just want to talk about a little bit, and I'm certain, although I was not at the dining committee meeting today, I'm certain that this probably came up. I cannot emphasize enough how much supply chain issues are impacting our operations here on campus, and most particularly as it relates to food delivery. So we are seeing every single food delivery, which is 3 times per week, items are not coming. Items that we have ordered are being replaced by the supplier without notice, and we're receiving something that is not what we ordered. We are seeing shortages on quantities of items that we order. So, for example, we do a 5-week menu cycle. Let's say that we had a special that is pan-seared sea scallops. We order the sea scallops for delivery. We want them to come in fresh. We expect that they're going to come in, let's say, on a Wednesday, and that they're going to be on the menu for Thursday. So you all make your reservations for Thursday, thinking you're going to have the pan-seared sea scallops, and or you order the dish for takeout or delivery. Very excited about the item. We're excited to serve it to you. And then we get the delivery in on Wednesday, and you can see on the invoice, it says ordered, let's say 50 pounds of sea scallops. And then when it says what was picked and sent by the supplier based on their availability, it might be 25 pounds of bay scallops. So 50 pounds of sea scallops, which everyone has banked on from the kitchen to you all, versus 25 pounds of bay scallops, that is not an equivalent product. It's nearly impossible for us to pivot in the way that we need to turn that into something that's going to be as special as the sea scallops. And so we are getting frustrated just as much, if not more so probably than all of you, because we are excited to put the dishes out, and we're opening our packages up, and we can see exactly what we've ordered. And then we can see that the suppliers have made the decision, probably not by choice, but because they're also short, that they can only send us what they have. I think the thing that frustrates me the most about this is I feel like we're in a time of real-time information. And I feel like the system should work such that if the chef goes in to order the 50 pounds of sea scallops and the supplier knows that they're not going to have them, or is concerned about potentially not having them, that there should be some indication at the time of that ordering. But that is apparently not how it works. So we're having a lot of the tail wagging the dog in our culinary operation. The items that are coming in are oftentimes vastly more expensive than typically would be. We haven't really modified our menu pricing to keep suit, but we are facing significant supply chain issues with food supplies. The other thing I would just mention too, I did receive an email from a resident yesterday indicating that there seems to be some, beyond just the supply chain issues, there seem to be some wide scale concerns about certain things related to culinary operations. I think that you're mainly all aware of the supply chain issues and how that's largely out of our control, but also that we've been, still constantly trying to backfill staff, and we're offering all kinds of incentives and enticements to bring staff in, and we're making some gains there. So there's some staffing issues, but in terms of quality of your actual offerings that you're receiving, I can't tell you enough how important it is that if you have a concern about the dish that comes out to you or that comes to you in your takeout or your delivery, we need you to give feedback right away. So if you get a piece of some sort of, let's say, some sort of protein on your dinner plate and it's not acceptable for you, the time to address it is at that time, because we want nothing more than to fix it and give you a plate that is acceptable to you. But if we don't know about it and we're not told, it's impossible for us to fix it at that time. If you can't or don't feel comfortable doing it at that time, which we really beg you to do so, please immediately, when you get back to your apartment or before you leave the dining room or whatever you do, put a comment card in or send an email right away. Because I read every single email that comes in about any culinary operation issues. I read every single comment card every month, as does the dining committee, certainly as does Ronnie, and Ronnie shares the feedback with her executive and production staff. There are many, many eyes on this, but what I don't think is happening, and I don't know the extent to which this is the case, but this particular resident indicated that, generally people are unhappy. That is not how the comment cards and the emails and the feedback are reading at all. If we get 24 comments back for an entire month, that's an entire month of meals, it's a lot. And if 40% of those are, I wasn't satisfied with this, that's a lot. So if you're having concerns, I am taking this seriously, and I have since Ronnie began here. We're not seeing that feedback coming through. So please, give the feedback at that moment. Give us an opportunity to fix your experience right there at the table. And if that can't happen for whatever reason, please get that feedback to us in writing, whether it goes to the dining committee, to Ronnie directly, to me, comment card, however you do it. But I look at those every single month, and that is what I use as a litmus to determine whether or not I feel like we're doing an acceptable meal service culinary program. So if we don't have information that suggests otherwise, then it's impossible for us to work, in the shadows and based on rumor and suggestion and so forth. So please take this seriously. Please help us help you have a better experience by, giving us that feedback so that we all have an opportunity to have this be the best possible experience, despite the challenges with staffing and the supply chain issues. So that's a please, please, please question. Let's see. The next thing, and I hate to say this, but we are kind of getting to the point where we could be seeing or hearing about some snow. One of the things that's very important for those especially that are new to the community, we do oftentimes have to activate a snow emergency parking protocol. And sometimes we can't get in touch with a resident, and a car might be in a location that we need to have it moved for the snow removal equipment and so forth. We absolutely have to know at all times what the make and model and license plate of your vehicle is here on campus. And generally, it would also be very helpful for you to let us know where you typically park it. So if you could please stop by Concierge this week, send them an email, give them a phone call, and let them know the make, model, color, and license plate of your vehicle. That would be enormously helpful. Excuse me, you might also want to check in with them at that time if they have a spare key for your vehicle. We typically do appreciate having that in case we have to move the car in the event of an emergency, but you can work through that with Concierge. But we absolutely have to know which car is which, who they belong to, and that we have updated information about your vehicles here on campus. So if you could do that, that would be very, very helpful. Let's see. Okay, I think the last thing that I just want to mention, and there will be a memo coming out about this, maybe today, if not today, then tomorrow. Some of you know that for years we have done, before the holidays, something called an employee free store here at Woodland Pond. Again, an employee free store. And this began many years ago when it kind of occurred to some of us that a lot of us have things at home that we might not have a use for anymore, but that someone else might really find very beneficial or important or exciting or whatever. And we had the idea of bringing in those items, either brand new packaged items or gently used items that someone else might really find benefit from. And so staff members would bring in, a candle that's never been used, unopened, a dish set, whatever the case may be. And we would bring all the items to the free store. And then for a couple of days, other staff members would go through and shop the free store. So shopping the free store essentially means just taking those items home. There's no money exchanged. It's really just a way for us to, share resources, help each other out, and do things like that. So a couple of years ago, residents had asked if they could participate by making donations to the free store. A lot of you have things like dish sets, vacuum cleaners that you don't use, things that, old luggage, old tools, whatever the case may be, that you're not utilizing anymore, that you're pretty sure that your children are not going to want, and you'd like to find a new home for those items. So we are going to be announcing, we are having a 2021 free store. We did not have one last year because of the pandemic, but the week of the 18th, we are going to ask residents that wish to drop off anything for the free store, drop it off into the art studio on the 18th or 19th. And again, there's going to be a memo on this. And in the memo, and this is so important, we've learned our lessons over the years. There are certain items that work really well for free stores, and there are other items that just sit there and they don't go anywhere. So we typically don't accept clothing, pillows, bed linens, those kinds of things. So we'll get all of the details out in the memo about exactly what is good for the free store and what's not. So we will collect items for the free store on the 18th and 19th. On the 20th, we will organize it. And then on the balance of that week, we will invite the staff to come and shop the free store. So a couple of residents just asked me to remind everyone that while residents are more than welcome to, and we certainly appreciate anything that you want to give to the free store, we don't, the free store shopping is for the staff. It's really to help benefit our staff that are just starting out, might be having trouble making ends meet, ways to give them a start with maybe not having to go out and buy so many household goods, especially now as the price of tangible items is going up, and supply chain issues and all that with just household goods and things like that too. So if any of this is interesting to you, you can look out for that memo. That'll be going out later this week. I am in the office the balance of the week. If anybody needs anything or wants anything or wants to talk to me, you know where to find me. Otherwise, I will see you next Tuesday. Thank you.